evening. When I was in high school, I was friends with a young lady named Julie. Now, don't read into it. We were just friends, friends only. But she was a good friend, and she played tennis. And so every year she would invite me to come watch her tennis games. And I usually worked, so I would try to make it there when I could. Well, anyhow, I would go to the tennis matches, and whenever I'd get there, I would always, can you hear me okay in the back? Okay. I'm sorry?
Turn it louder. I did, don't worry. You're good. Okay. Keep going.
Sorry. And that bell, I'm salivating now. Turn me over and baste me again. Okay, anyhow, high school tennis. I would go to the tennis matches, and I would sit with her Uncle Manny and her brother Eddie. Now, I need to explain to you a couple of things about Uncle Manny. First off, Uncle Manny he was the older brother of Julie's dad. And what would happen is that he was an older gentleman, his kids had moved away from home, so he kind of took care of Eddie, her brother. Now, there's something about Eddie I need to tell you. Eddie is what you might look at him if you saw him and you would say, wow, he has special needs. But I always said, no, he's got special gifts. And I'll tell you why. Because Eddie was given the gift of authenticity and being in the moment. There was no past, there was no future. Eddie was Eddie, which meant he spoke what was on his mind at that very moment. The second gift he had was this incredible sense of timing. So I'll give you an example. One day after a tennis tournament, we're sitting there talking, and Eddie comes up to me and he goes, Bryan, we're going to McDonald's tonight after the match. You want to go? And I said, no, I don't want to go, but that's great. That looks, I know he loves McDonald's. So we're talking after the match. She had won. It was a lovely time. Eddie goes, we need to go. She said, well, just hold up, Eddie. And how long? She said, 5 minutes. So 5 minutes, we're talking, continuing talking, and I mean like a bell that went off. Ding, 5 minutes. And I looked at my watch, and sure enough, it had been 5 minutes. That was his gift. So whenever I could, I would go home and watch her play tennis, and over the years, I would go back and always visit Uncle Matty, and he and Eddie would kind of show up at the local McDonald's, and they would hang out. They'd go to local plays and local events. You could always see him about town. But eventually, Uncle Manny died. And she called me up and said, I want you to be a pallbearer. And I said, of course, I'd be glad to. So I go home, and I got there early, and so as a pallbearer, I had to go and sit on the very front row at the church for the day of the funeral. Well, I'm sitting there, they started the service, and it's a really nice service, the place is packed, and suddenly in the back, you hear some shuffling, and the big door opened up. And in the background, this is what I heard. I told you they were in here. And I can't hear who he's talking to, but I know that it's Eddie. So then he goes like this. I told you we were late. A couple moments later, I hear, can we sit up front? And why not? And again, this is a conversation, so imagine the service is going on, and we're having this beautiful emotional service interrupted by things like, where's Uncle Manny? And I can hear them talking to him. What box? And so the next one, Uncle Manny's up there in that box? And I'm like, oh no. This is kind of awkward. So the funeral goes on, the service goes on, someone finally grabs Eddie and has him sit down. And again, it's this really sweet, gentle creature. And the thing about Eddie is that you just don't tell Eddie what to do. Eddie's a free spirit, you just kind of go with the flow, and everyone knew that. So about halfway in the service, Eddie gets bored, so he's going to go on walkabout. And I can hear people shuffling, and of course, there's this prayer going on, and in the background, in the back, you hear, excuse me, excuse me, excuse me. And I knew it's Eddie, and most of us know Eddie. So that's just Eddie, that's Eddie. And all of a sudden, he gets up to the middle, and I mean, it's like this. He's standing at the side, and he's just staring at people. And I can overhear in the background, hey, John Porter, Uncle Eddie's up there, Uncle Manny's up there in that box. And so he walks around a little bit, and the next thing I know, he's standing right in front of me. And he's just like this, he's just standing there looking. Hey, Bryan. No, hey, Eddie, come here, sit down by me. I don't want to sit down. And the minister's trying to keep his face straight. He's trying to tell this story about Manny and celebrating Manny. While at the same time, Eddie's just looking around. So he goes, Bryan, that's Uncle Manny right there in that box. I'm like, yeah, come here, come and sit down by me. So eventually, the service is getting towards the end, and so I grabbed Andy, I tried to get him set down. They finished the funeral, and at that point, though, I knew I was in trouble because I heard this in the middle of a prayer. Bryan, I gotta go to the bathroom. I need to pee real bad. And of course, everyone else here is I'm like, hey, just, just hang out. And he said, how long? I said, 5 minutes. You know where this is going now. So I'm thinking to myself, please, for the love of all things sacred, finish this funeral, let's get him out. And we sat there, and I'm looking at my watch, and I got like a minute to go, and suddenly they go into the final prayer for the service, and I'm just like, okay, maybe he'll slip out, maybe I should slip him out, but I can't leave, I'm a pallbearer. So what I hear instead is, 5 minutes. So he takes off and starts walking back to the back of the church. Now, he's going to go outside and relieve himself. But here's the thing that I left off is that the church was made in the 70s, or built in the 70s, so it is completely 100% glass. So from the outside of the church, they have a mirror to reflect the light, but from the inside, it is just crystal clear. Now, Eddie is a discreet man. He's in his 30s. He is discreet, so he goes outside and looks to figure out where he can go, and he finds 2 bushes. I will go in between these 2 bushes and go. And when he gets in between the 2 bushes, he looks up, and there's a mirror. Hey! So everyone in the church is seeing this guy stand outside. And sure enough, I'm like, go, please, someone stop him. I see him reach his hand to go for the, he's going to take care of business. He starts to pull it out. Now, the only people who see it are the people up front, who are really close to that window, and they're watching this grown man pull himself out and get ready to go. And that's not the big deal, but then people start laughing about it, so then everybody in the church turns and looks at Eddie, and he's sitting there, and not only is he doing it, then he decides, well, that's kind of fun, so then he raises it up like a hose. So he had a lot to drink, and that is my story of Eddie and his sweet release.